Hello and welcome to Granada Reports, live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
She was the youngest victim of the terror attack. Today, Safi Roussos' dad told the Manchester Arena inquiry that he's heard nothing but excuses.
The response on that night was shameful and inadequate. Everyone in that city room was let down, and the people that excuse it should feel shame.
Temperatures plummet, thousands of people are still without power. Storm Arwen brings down trees and causes havoc across the electricity network.
All adults to be offered a booster jab and mandatory mask wearing makes a comeback. We hear what's been done to stop the spread of the new COVID variants.
Manchester United confirm Ralph Rangnick is taking charge until the end of the season.
And we meet the barber from Liverpool, who's simply a cut above the rest.
Yes, thanks for your company. First this evening, she was the youngest of the Manchester Arena bomb victims. Safi Rose Roussos was just 8 years old. This week, the public inquiry into the terror attack will focus on her.
Well, today, her father told that inquiry Safi had been let down, that in a room full of clever people, he had never heard so many excuses.
And in a day of distressing evidence, the court heard that Safi had asked the paramedic, "Am I going to die?" Our correspondent, Amy Welch, has this report.
Shameful and inadequate. The words used by the father of Safi Rose Roussos to describe the emergency response to a terror attack which left his daughter dead.
What Safi went through, I will never forgive. That poor little girl hung in there for someone to come and help her. What she received was a bloody advertisement board and untrained people doing the best they could.
And now this inquiry into the attack must determine whether 8-year-old Safi might have survived with better medical help, something the experts don't agree on.
There is unfortunately a difference of opinion. That is not going to be easy evidence. It's not going to be easy for me to determine either.
Andrew Roussos described the frantic search for his wife and daughter, the screams and the chaos.
I needed to find, Lisa and Safi. The whole of Hunts Bank was full of people. Majority of them were injured on the floor, majority of them were screaming, majority of them were children.
Safi's mum described the moment of the blast.
I tried to move and my body wouldn't move, and then I tried to move my arms and my legs and nothing would move. And I remember thinking, help will come soon, just stay where you are. I couldn't move anyway, but just stay awake and there's going to be help on the way. It felt like hours.
When she woke from a coma 2 weeks later, Andrew was at her side, but she knew Safi had gone.
I thought, why isn't he mentioning Safi? Because Safi was my last thought before I went into the coma. And I just knew.
The inquiry heard how Safi was 5 metres away from the bomber. Paul Reed had been selling posters at the arena and did his best to keep her conscious.
She was speaking for 10 minutes, or 10, 15 minutes.
10, 15 minutes?
And then I told her to stop because she was having trouble breathing, so I told her to stop talking. And she was in and out of consciousness.
She was carried out of the arena on an advertising board. And when an ambulance was eventually flagged down, she was still conscious and spoke to the paramedic.
She was able to speak. And she said to me, "Am I going to die?" I obviously reassured her and tried to comfort her as best I could.
Safi arrived at Manchester Children's Hospital 52 minutes after the blast, but she couldn't be saved. Her family say it's a nightmare no one should face.
I want to thank those that tried to help Safi that night and for being with her. I also want to say to the professionals like the emergency services and MI5 that this inquiry isn't about protecting your job, your reputation or your uniform. We understand the sheer panic and fear you were faced with that night, but until you admit the failings, how can there be a positive change?
They say they owe it to the world to ensure lessons really are learned, and it'll be down to the inquiry to honour their request. Amy Welch, ITV News.
And we'll be following developments at the inquiry, of course, all week. Well, next tonight, thousands of people across the region are still without power after Storm Arwen brought down trees and caused widespread damage to electricity lines.
Yeah, it came as temperatures plummeted to below zero, leaving many relying on family and community centres.
Electricity North West say they're working as quickly as they can to restore power, but they've dealt with more than 50,000 calls over the weekend.
Sarah Rogers has spent the day in Cumbria talking to people who say they feel forgotten.
It may look like a winter wonderland, but before the snow came, Storm Arwen left tens of thousands of people in the dark in sub-zero temperatures after electricity lines were brought down. Here in Grangeover Sands in Cumbria, the local church, which does have power, opened to the community so that they can recharge. But patience with their supplier is in short supply.
Have been without power now for almost 3 days. I worry about getting hypothermia.
Feeling sort of forgotten by the rest of the world. A town that time forgot, so to speak.
My daughter down in Manchester has looked at a map of the places that have no power, and we're not even on it.
At a care home close by, the generator broke. There's been a desperate search for heaters.
It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. We shouldn't be in a situation in today's day, where you can leave a care home with no power to support us.
Well, the power went out here at around midnight on Friday, and this is the situation. This is the dividing line. So if you live behind, you do have power. However, all of these houses are out, and what it's meant is that people have been driving hours to try and find heaters and generators and say they've had little or no help. We're told that a multi-agency response continues with the emergency services, including welfare checks and community hubs. But other areas in the northwest were also hit, including this caravan park in Littleborough in Greater Manchester.
We actually have a Calagas fire and a little stove because everything else is electric. So we've no heating other than that, no means of cooking.
Just outside of Kendal, there is urgent repair work by Electricity North West, with crews being drafted in from across the country.
The main reason why it's taking so long is because the massive amount of damage that's been caused. We've had over 700 different pieces of damage.
A number of people have said to us that communication's been poor. When can you expect everybody to have power again?
It's very difficult for us to know exactly when everybody will have
hours,
power,
days,
but
weeks.
Today we expect to make significant inroads into the last few really large outages.
The plan is that will be by tomorrow evening, so it's another night by candlelight for many, with only slightly milder temperatures to be thankful for. Sarah Rogers, ITV News.
Well, next, a teenage boy has appeared in court charged with the murder of 12-year-old Ava White in Liverpool.
Yeah, he's 14 years old and cannot be named because of his age. Ava died at the city's Christmas lights switch on. Our Merseyside correspondent Andy Bonner sent this report from court.
The boy sat quietly in the dock for the duration of the 5-minute hearing at Liverpool Magistrates Court, which was sitting as a youth court for the purposes of today's case. He confirmed his name and his date of birth, although we're not allowed to identify him because of his age. He is charged with Ava's murder and with possession of a bladed article. Ava, of course, 12 years old, was in Liverpool city centre with her friends to watch a Christmas lights switch on Thursday evening. When she died, police say she suffered catastrophic injuries. The boy charged with her murder was remanded to secure accommodation and will appear at Crown Court on Wednesday.
Andy Bonner reporting. The family of the young law student who was murdered in Blackburn last year have collected her posthumous degree certificate. Aya Hatcham was the innocent victim of a drive-by shooting. In a poignant moment, her certificate was presented to her mum, Samar. Her daughter was just 19 and had been studying law at Salford University. The certificate was presented earlier today.
Well, next, and from tomorrow, wearing a mask will once again be mandatory in shops, hairdressers and on public transport. It's after the Omicron variant of COVID was discovered in Essex, Nottingham and London.
Well, so far, just 11 cases of the new variant have been found in the UK. None has been identified yet in the northwest, which of course is good news, but its impact is being felt already by us all.
Yes, certainly is. Today, in an effort to stop its spread, it was announced that everyone over 18 will now be offered a COVID-19 booster vaccine.
Our political reporter Leisha McNally is in Westminster for us tonight. Leisha, there's a lot of concern over this new variant.
Well, the Health Secretary has always warned Lucy that any worrying new variants could seriously tip the balance in terms of our pandemic response. And today he stood up in the House of Commons and announced that that variant is here. So it's back to that old race between the vaccine and the virus, trying to get ahead of any future waves of infection. And all adults in the Northwest are now officially running in that race because, as you say, eligibility extended for boosters to all those over 18. And the gap between your second jab and your booster has also been halved from 6 months to 3. That's a pretty significant change, and I think shows how seriously scientists are taking this moment. Finally, children between the ages of 12 and 15 will now also be allowed to book their second vaccine. The message very much is, when that invitation comes, take it.
We're not going to wait for the red card to happen. We're going to act decisively now, and we're asking everyone to up their game. We're asking everyone to play their part in the urgency now of the booster programme coming forward the moment you are called by the NHS. It's really, frankly, never been more vital that the booster campaign has never been more vital than at this point in time.
Now, obviously, while we wait for that invitation, the main face of this fight is going to be our own behaviour. And the government have not rolled out the full Plan B. People won't be advised to work from home, and there's no sign of any compulsory COVID vaccine passports. Instead, what we've got is a kind of Plan B minus, so compulsory masks in shops and in public transport, but not in hospitality. Now, Labour aren't happy about that. They say this variant can't tell the difference between a supermarket and a pub. And in the Northwest, the advice to people is to stay alert to the risks in any setting, whether masks are compulsory or not.
Stick it on. It doesn't do you any harm to wear a mask. It's a relatively simple thing that you can do to protect other people, and it's a really key thing at the moment. But that goes hand in hand with being in ventilated spaces.
Now, the government maintains that its response is proportionate to the current risks, and ultimately we just don't know what's going to happen next. It'll take around 3 weeks for scientists to find out exactly how dangerous or not this new variant is. And it's hoped that the new measures which come into place tomorrow will help buy us time to gather that crucial data, which could make all the difference as to where we go from here.
Leisha, thanks very much for that, and that's all happening tomorrow, don't forget. So lots to come on the programme.
There's a new name at Old Trafford. Ralph Rangnick takes charge as Manchester United manager until the end of the season.
And after the stormy conditions of this weekend, we then had our coldest night of the season so far last night. What more do we have in store? Find out later on.
Now, it's 10 years since the popular Liverpool player David Faircloth lost his wife to a brain aneurysm. Jan Faircloth was treated at the Walton Centre in Aintree, and David and his family have never forgotten how they helped them through the darkest time of their lives.
In the decade that's followed, the family has raised more than £400,000 for the hospital's charity. David and his son Tom have been talking to our correspondent Victoria Grimes about Jan's legacy and their latest fundraising project.
When you start something off like we did, I think you think, well, we'll do it this year. And then obviously you see the results and you think, well, we might do it next year. And then to find ourselves 10 years on. And the things that we've been able to do give us that boost, the incentive to carry on.
Obviously, Mum passed away 10 years ago, and one of my worst fears is that kind of stop talking about her, and she's just consigned to history, and this gives us a chance to still take on Mum's legacy, still talk about the good work she did. She was so into fundraising when she was with us, so it's carrying on what she was doing, and also it does help with the grief because you feel like you're doing such a positive.
We're in the relatives centre that you guys effectively built. You raised all the money for it. How does it feel to be back here?
The Home from Home project, it came out of what we went through in the ordinary waiting room, sitting on chairs, sleeping on chairs and heads on tables and things.
And some people are brought in from over 100 miles away from all around the country, and it's just not possible for them to nip home and get some respite. So we understand that this would make a huge difference to those people. Just somewhere that's less clinical, somewhere you can come and have a seat, have a coffee and try and take your mind away from what you're really going through. So does bring a huge amount of pride to us.
The Faircloths now have a new goal, raising £130,000 for a virtual reality simulator to train neurosurgeons. The revolutionary device would be the first of its kind in the UK and, say surgeons here, a game changer.
A pilot doesn't get to fly a jumbo straight away. They have to do a number of flying hours. And we know that traditionally 20,000 hours is the time it takes to train a neurosurgical consultant. So that's a very long time. It takes perhaps 8 to 10 years to do that. We can improve that and we can probably shorten it with the flying hours which the junior surgeons can get on the simulator.
So this is effectively going to make the Walton Centre a world-class leader in training for surgeons then?
We wouldn't be able to do it without the Faircloth charity, and we are massively grateful because I think it will make a massive improvement to surgical training in the future.
For the Walton Centre to have it first, it just helps to maintain its position as the leading centre of its type, and we're very, very lucky to have it so close to our doorstep.
We look 10 years down the line, do you think you'll still be fundraising? And it's the next generation now. Grandad Dave, you've got 3 little grandchildren. Are they going to be the ones that are going to drive this forward in the future, do you think?
It'd be funny for them to be linked to something that was their nan, who they unfortunately none of them got to meet. Lily's already got a Nanny Jan bear, which is kind of made out of her old clothes, and she'll be well aware of her Nan Jan. And the reason why we called her Lily was because it was my mum's favourite flower.
And I hear there's lots of babysitting duties for you.
Yeah, just getting used to the new image, Grandad.
It's not cramping your style though, is it?
Yes, a little bit.
What do you think Jan and your mum would have thought about all the fundraising that you've done?
Well, use bad choice of words really. And she died to know that there's something called the Jan Faircloth Ball after her, because that just wasn't her raison d'etre, you know. She helped people, but she never looked for fame from it or
recognition.
Or
yeah,
recognition.
she did it very quietly.
Ultimately, I think she'd be really proud of us. I'm sure she's looking down, watching us, and that's ultimately why we do it, I think.
Yeah, such lovely pictures of Jan and those grandchildren. Our thanks to the Faircloths for talking to us, and well done to them for all the work they're doing for the Walton Centre. Well, let's get on to sport now, and Manchester United have confirmed their next manager, Mike.
That's right, Lucy. Not exactly a surprise announcement. It's been clear for a few days now that Ralph Rangnick would become their interim manager. Today, he's been handed the reins for 6 months, subject to getting a work visa. He'll stay on for another 2 years as a consultant. Rangnick says he's focused on making this a successful season for Manchester United, as David Chisnall reports.
After days of waiting, finally, it's official. Manchester United have appointed Ralph Rangnick as their new interim coach until the end of the season, with the 63-year-old German then taking up a consultancy role at the club for 2 years. He's still waiting for his work visa to be sorted before he can properly start, but he said, "I am excited to be joining Manchester United and focused on making this a successful season for the club. The squad is full of talent and has a great balance of youth and experience. All my efforts for the next 6 months will be on helping these players fulfil their potential both individually and, most importantly, as a team." Well, Rangnick comes to Old Trafford as someone without any Premier League experience, but he does have a huge reputation within European football, especially in his homeland Germany. Well, when you look at Rangnick's record with his former clubs, the likes of Hoffenheim, Schalke and Leipzig, it's not an amazing record, just a few cups. But what really makes him stand out is the way that he transformed those clubs and revolutionised German football through his philosophy of an attacking, pressing style of play that's had a big influence on the likes of Liverpool's Jurgen Klopp and Chelsea's Thomas Tuchel.
Look at Liverpool, they are playing fantastic. I'm not trying to praise Liverpool because I'm a United fan, but they are playing good. The tactics are brilliant, they're outstanding at the moment. But I think United can get to that level.
I've never heard of him before. If you got Zidane or Pochettino, they'd be able to deliver for us and get us back to where we need to be.
It's the first thing the board has done right in a few years. Ollie was a club legend, but he was completely out of his depth.
Well, Ronaldo has been the poster boy since rejoining United this season. How the 36-year-old will work with Ranić will now be much debated.
I've got no concerns about Ronaldo. He's a terrific player and he'll adapt. It's a lot of the other players that the question marks are over, really. We've had vinegar with Mourinho, we've had honey with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So we hope that Ralph, with his tactics, will get the whole team working together and playing together.
Well, if Ranić's work visa is sorted in time, United fans could get their first glimpse of their interim coach at home to Arsenal on Thursday. David Chisnell, ITV News, Old Trafford.
Now, how often do you sit down with your hairdresser, or in my case barber, and find yourself telling them all sorts of things you wouldn't tell your closest friends or your own family? Or is it just me?
Yeah, that's if you can get a word in edgeways with them. One barber, though, who's been in business in Liverpool for 25 years, has collected so many stories, he's now written a book.
Yeah, he's Will Twentyman, great name, whose barbershop is a well-known fixture in Waterloo. Paul Crone went along for a short back insides.
Established 25 years ago in Waterloo, Liverpool, this famous barbershop certainly isn't here today and gone tomorrow. As for the boss, he's a cut above the rest.
Bay rum, great hair tonic, been using it for 20 years, can't fault it.
In a barber's shop fit for a king, Will Twentyman plies his trade, having cut 1 billion Barnetts over the years and listened to customers' woes, worries and dreams.
The way we've got the shop set up with the cubicles, it's a little bit like confession. So, we're having a conversation and the guy getting his hair cut in the other cubicle would have no idea at all what we were talking about, So it's been a fantastic journey.
Will has now written a book called The Battle of Waterloo. All proceeds will go to the Alzheimer's Society in memory of his dad, Jeff Twentyman, who played a staggering 184 games for Liverpool, hence the Reds memorabilia adorning his emporium. The 55-year-old has taken writing the book seriously. Nothing has been chopped out.
I don't possess a tremendous education, but what I do have is a good memory, and my recall is very accurate. So I can recall all the stories. So what I basically did, I started writing them down a long time ago.
Son Hal, working alongside his dad, makes it very much a family affair. So whether it's beard trimming or that cut to give you that extra clip of confidence, everyone is made to feel welcome.
Hang on, it's complete without a hot mentholated towel.
I said no haircut is complete without a hot mentholated towel.
I think I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I get paid for something that I enjoy doing, and every day's different. And as a barber, you're like on a stage and you're playing the main role. And if you can have guys coming in who are a little bit dour and you can lift them, and that means more to me. You get a handshake at the end of the job or whatever, you've made it worthwhile, and that's all that matters,
With father and son cutting in perfect harmony, there are definitely no split ends here. Paul Crone, ITV News, Liverpool.
Well, you need a hat for the weather. Here's Joe.
Now that is brew weather.
And only boiling what she needs.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Big up you, sis.
Thank you. Good evening. It was our coldest night of the season so far last night, unsurprisingly. It got down to around -9 across many parts of northern England. Icy to start the day today. And it's really struggled temperature-wise, but they are on the up tonight, those temperatures. And tomorrow will be less cold, if a little bit damp and cloudy. And by midweek, as we go into December, a return to chillier, wintry conditions, but nothing like as cold as it was last night and this morning. Low pressure in charge of things as we go through the next few days, so there will be spells of rain, rather windy weather at times, and the next fine day will be Thursday, when we've got some lovely sunshine across the north of England and a pull of cold air from the north, so a bit of sunshine to look forward to at least, but a chillier feel once more. In the meantime, this evening, an early frost, then cloud will build, patchy rain moves in, winds increase, there's lots of low cloud and mistiness tonight. But the temperatures we find ourselves with by dawn, 8 or 9 Celsius, are nearly 20 degrees different to those of last night and this morning. So a huge difference as we go into Tuesday. Those are the sun times. It's up at 8:03, setting at 5 to 4 tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow then, cloudy to start the day. Northwest England and the Isle of Man will have outbreaks of patchy rain from the word go. And pushing in from the northwest during the afternoon, more of that. Winds increasing in strength through the day. On paper, above average, 10 or 11 Celsius, but probably not feeling that nice tomorrow, especially as winds get up. And then tomorrow night, a further spell of wet and windy weather moving through. From Wednesday onwards, a colder feel to our weather. Any showers could turn wintry up on higher ground, but Thursday will be a lovely day.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
2 sugars, please.
Oh, lovely.
Thanks, Joe. Tomorrow, good news for animals at Knowsley Safari Park.
Yeah, new technology is being brought in to monitor their health more closely.
Yeah, if a grumpy lion has a bit of a limp, you might not want to get too close for a look, so it's the perfect solution. We'll have more on that at 6 o'clock tomorrow. For now, good night.
See you tomorrow. Bye.